I have started the recording, so it must be official. We have begun our wonderful webinar. As you know, we do this weekly. I'd like to see you come to many of them, most of them. We try and find topics that would be of interest to you. I'm Diane McKeever, and I am the education chair of the Minnesota chapter of SCORE. Today, we're going to be talking about demystifying the insurance maze. We have Suzanne Malloy-Zaleski with us, and she has a huge knowledge base. So we are going to find out what she knows about insurance and, more importantly, what you should know about insurance. But before we get started, I have a few housekeeping things. Just wanted to let you know what SCORE is. Sometimes people don't know what we are. We're an independent nationwide organization that's a resource partner of the Small Business Administration. Our organization was started more than 60 years ago. We provide confidential, free mentoring advice to businesses. All you have to do is ask, and you will be assigned a mentor who can help you improve your business immeasurably. Our chapter, which is the Minnesota chapter, which is portmanteau of Sarasota and Manatee counties, we service the area with almost 90 volunteers ready to help you. We were recently identified as a chapter of the year. So what part of your business can we help you with? Well, you know, you're thinking about a business. We get a lot of clients who say, I've been tossing this idea around. Well, toss it around with us. We'd love to hear your idea and help you identify whether or not it's something that's viable, or you actually pulled the trigger and you started a business, but now you realize that you don't know everything about everything. Well, that's a good time to contact a mentor. Or you are in business and you realize that your business is a little stagnant and you need to grow. We can help you with that. Or lastly, you're interested in selling or closing your business, or conversely, you're thinking about buying a business. Don't overpay. Don't leave money on the table. Contact us. We have a team that's dedicated to just that. Where would you go for it? Well, go to score.org/Minnesota, and there's a big old button that you can't miss. It says request a mentor. And all you have to do is fill in a little bit of information, your zip code for one, so that you are matched with somebody who's relatively close to you. Although I have clients in California and Colorado, which is not that close to me, but it's great that they have selected me, because you can, in fact, select your own mentor. You can do a little research and identify someone that you would like to work with or think you'd like to work with. You can look at the mentor profiles. While on our website, you can sign up for other workshops. Remember, we have these weekly, and so please consider signing up. And while you're there too, you can look for webinars that we have recorded. All of our webinars are recorded and are available on our website. Lastly, I want to thank our sponsors. Without them, we don't have any lights on, and that wouldn't be good. So you'll notice that a lot of them are financial institutions. If you go into one of these with a SCORE mentor, they'll listen to you a lot more than they will if you walk in with a whole pile of papers and say, I think I made money, but I need more. They will listen to you if they understand that you are working with a SCORE mentor. And thank our community partners. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to have Suzanne Malloy-Zaleski take over hers and educate us on the insurance maze. And that is what it is, a maze to those of us who are uninitiated, who are not insurance people. So take it away, Suzanne.
All right, let's get it going. All right, sorry, my screens are I got the timer on there a little bit wrong, so excuse me. But at any rate, fire away with questions. Diane and I will try and keep an eye on them in the chat. Whatever we don't get to right away, we'll also try and take a look at the end. We'll wind everything up. So please do keep it in mind. It is an insurance maze. We know that. It's a big, broad gobbledygook of information and stuff, and what does it all mean to you is what we're trying to make it here. I have been in the insurance, dare I say, for over 35 years. I am a fourth generation insurance-ite. Actually, I'm third generation. My son's now fourth generation. My grandfather, my father, my brother and I, and now my son is in the business. So let's take a look and see if we can make it easier for you. If you have any questions and you want to reach out to me directly, that is our website on the QR code. Feel free to use that as we go forward. So quick question for everybody here. Do you feel like when you think of insurance, do you think of happiness and you want to share and you want to, hand over money? No, probably not. Or are you more thinking of like my friend here, B? Go ahead, fire it away, put it in the chat. Let's see what you think about. See what you think about.
Just put an A in or a B in the chat and let Suzanne know. Yep, B. That's it, Catherine.
I think we all feel that way, don't we?
I think we all feel that way.
And even me. I mean, we don't love it, but we know what it can do for you. And the truth is we're dealing with a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Now think about that, $1 trillion industry. What if I told you that when I was doing my research for the TED Talk I did about insurance, of course, the estimates are between $5 and $9 trillion of what this industry represents. And it's probably one of the biggest global industries. And it's probably the oldest one. And it's been around since the beginning of time. And the reality is you own a piece of it. By having your insurance policy, you partake in it. The truth is, how much do you want to partake in it? Do you want to have an active role in this, or do you want to have a passive role in this? And my wish for you is that if you do, whoops, sorry, it is going ahead of me here. My wish for you is that by having your insurance policy, you do own a piece of it. And my wish for you is that if you ever did have a need to use your insurance, it really does become a speed bump rather than a train wreck. So now, and it's financially that we're talking about, obviously. But now let's go into navigating insurance, the maze. And I made the acronym the easy way. Now, Diane and I share a love of sailing, so we want smooth sailing as we go along here and make it easy. But we're going to start with the essentials. What's required by law? Let's keep it legal. You can't really do anything about it. A lot of us know about this already within our own homes, okay? And what else happens here that we go on? Oh, come on. Why is this jumping ahead of me? I'm sorry, people. Really don't skip it. Strongly suggested. And then the employee fund. You're here as an entrepreneur. I'm sure you're dealing with some side of employee management. So let's talk about here what's required by law. Workers' compensation, whether you like it or not, you have an employee, you are dealing with workers' compensation. End of discussion. But what the things you want to look at here, and I think that you want to critically take a look at, is the subcontractors. So if you have subcontractors, and a lot of people think, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about payroll, I'll have subcontractors. You're a sitting duck if they don't have their own workers' compensation. Because if you don't have it, they're going to come back and come after you for that workers' compensation. And then the other thing is certificates of insurance. Use the description box. Something like, oh, I have general liability, and they put whatever company it is, company A, and I have workers' compensation or whatever it might be. And it might say it's for painting. And they're actually putting up scaffolding and they're repairing roofs. So you really want to pay attention to what's in that. So part of when we talk about insurance is about risk, right? You avoid it by not getting in business or not driving a car or not living. You can take it all on yourself. So if you don't have any of these coverages, you are self-insuring, or you can transfer the risk and you can partner with the insurance company. And that's one of it. And to do it the right way, you want to make sure that your contractors or anybody else you're working with is also working with the insurance company the right way. I think all of us know about our automobile in coverage. If you have a car, you need to have insurance. Now, maybe you don't have a commercial auto, but one of the biggest coverages that you can also get, and I'll mention again on the next slide, is what's called hired and non-owned coverage. If I said, hey, Laura, can you do me a favor? Can you run out to Staples and get me some paper? We're out of paper. And your employee has an accident in their own car. Here's what's going to happen if it's what we call the BFC, that big fat claim. Okay. They're going to go first under the operator of the vehicle, the vehicle itself. Secondly, they'll go to the operator of the vehicle. And then they uncover that you were out just running an errand and you grabbed some paper while you were out at lunch for work. Then they go to the employer with the next set of deep pockets. So add hired and non-owned. You could also add it on your general liability policy, even if you don't have an automobile policy. And I mentioned here unemployment insurance because that is a government-run item, but it affects us all. If you're in business, it affects the cost of doing business, how much you have to pay, what's involved, and anything else that may go with that one. Now, most people are pretty well versed with these items. If you have a company, you have general liability. If you do damage to somebody, who's going to pay for it? Okay. But we also have in here what's known as additional insureds. Maybe you own a building and you want your tenants to list you as additional insureds. Maybe you're the tenant in the building and you need to be listed as additional insured. Watch what they're asking for. Are there hold harmless agreements? Figure out what they're asking for as they go into these items. Okay. Again, I cannot say enough. Use the description box. Use the description box. John Doe, landlord, wants you to hold him harmless. For what? Renting unit 1, renting unit 3, the entire building. What do you want to be left on the hook for? So make sure you take a look at that piece of it. The other piece is the building itself, your personal property, your supplies, your stock, your specialty items. Maybe you have some inventory. Think about a grocery store. How much inventory does a grocery store carry? Contractors maybe don't have as much in inventory. They might have it in machinery and equipment. What type of businesses do we have here? Put it in the chat. Give me an idea of what kind of business we're looking at here.
I can see the fingers flying. Here we go.
Uh-huh. Energy healing. Great, Colleen. Fabulous. So in your case, Colleen, you might have a small equipment, maybe a lot of equipment, probably some beds that might be where you are. Do you own your own building or do you have people, are you going to people's homes? Let's see what you might have. Weight loss coaching. Great. Thanks, Catherine. So are people coming into you? If there's a trip and fall on your premises, who's going to be left at fault here?
Donna has a manufacturing business.
There you go, Donna. So how much contents and supplies do you have in stock that you need to worry about? A golf cart and e-bike dealership. Great, Anthony. Plenty of there. No longer go to homes. You have brick and mortar. Okay, so you've got the property, you've got the contents inside the building, the real property. A golf cart and e-bike dealership. That's plenty of content and stock inside your business. So make sure you have the proper coverages. Schedule any specialty items, perhaps. Okay. Maybe we have a $20,000 bed, and I'm making it up, Colleen. Maybe I've got it wrong. Anthony, maybe you have a super duper gold coated one. I'm making these items up, obviously. We often find this sometimes, even I'm talking to a landscaper. They have a $40,000 mini excavator. So are there special items that need to be scheduled? These are for you. Talk to your insurance professional so we make sure that we tailor the coverages to what's important to you. The deeper the conversations, the better you're going to get. I have deductibles in here. Pay attention to your deductibles. What do you have in terms of windstorm? What do you have in terms of hurricane deductibles? Flooding is almost universally excluded from anything, so pay attention to that one as well. The higher the deductible, generally the lower the cost. Okay, most people are starting with $1,000 deductibles today. Maybe a $2,500 deductible makes sense to you. You have to figure out what works for you. And then there's business income. Where will the cash come from? if you're down in Florida, you've been through a few hurricanes. Where does the money come from if your business is not operating? Got an e-bike dealership, a golf cart, Anthony. I don't know what we're going to get here. And then my coach is here. What about malpractice, errors and omissions, or D&O and E&O? Do you have professional malpractice insurance? Maybe you need it, maybe you don't need it. As an insurance agent, I have errors and omissions. If I make a mistake, the insurance now goes to my insurance and looks for things to come from. Directors and officers will go into a couple of those examples as we move along. Now, here's another huge one, cyber liability. Now, there's a lot of mandated requirements here. Think about it. Notification of expenses. The notification expense, you now have to tell the 1,000 people who've ever touched your email that there's been a data breach. Maybe you're now mandated 7 years of credit monitoring. Who's going to pay for that? And what about the legal fees that go along with this? And I'll give a couple examples of some of these coming up. Registered nurse. Great, Catherine. You probably have your E&O and D&O perhaps with your employer, but if I know some people who run private practices have registered nursing firms where they actually hire out nurses. Product liability. If your business manufactures or sells products, get product liability coverage. E-bikes, are you manufacturing them? Or, oh, see, Catherine, perfect, private practice. If you're manufacturing or selling products, you want the product liability. And then how much do you have at risk? Is your business worth only $1 million? You know, your basic liability is $1 million per one occurrence, $2 million for the entire year. Is that really all you have at risk? It adds up quick and fast. Maybe your business is worth 4 or 5 million. Ask for a commercial umbrella. Those are really inexpensive. Those go above the auto and they go above the general liability. So it's something to consider and put in your wheelhouse. I know it's a cost benefit analysis, and we'll talk about it and how to make it right. I personally, and I'll make it easy for our own personal automobile, I think of it this way. If somebody's going to sue me, I have no idea how much they're going to sue me for. And you live in the US, people, they can sue for anything, including hot coffee. So I don't know what that's going to cost me in terms of what the payout will be, what my attorney fees will be. But if my car is damaged, the worst I'm going to lose is the value of my car. So keep that in mind as you look at it. Don't cheap out on liability. Do not. That's where you have the most risk. And then the why. It's about you and your employees, the fun part of all of this. Now, the fun part is the medical insurance you want to attract. That may be mandated by law. It depends on how many employees you have. So that's why I have a star there. But do you have life insurance benefits? Do you have retirement benefits? Do you have a health savings account, HSA, FSA? Do you offer disability? Do you offer a 401k? As employers, did you know that you can get what's called voluntary benefits? And it really is no cost to you as an employer to provide. It's a little caveat with no cost. There is a small fee. You probably have to open up a payroll slot, but then 100% paid for by the employees. Or maybe it's a benefit you want to offer. When I ran my own agency for 25 years, I offered, especially for my long-term people, short-term disability. Cost me about $1 or $2 a week to add it on. I thought it was a great benefit. And I would be heartbroken if they went out on disability, and now I was able to do this. Would you recommend a new entrepreneur startup begin with a direct writer like Allstate or an independent carrier? Clinton, that's a great question. Personally, I think if you're starting a new business, I would start with an independent agent. There are niche markets in these. I think that Allstate and State Farm and a lot of these carriers are amazing in the personal lines. They do an extremely good job. I find that on the commercial side that I would probably look at an independent agent. And I'm happy. I don't know where you're located. You were in PA. I saw that. It's an excellent question. Sarasota. Okay. I would definitely, I know Allstate agents have a lot and I have a lot of dear friends down there, have access to independent groups and books. I think the most important thing is for you to get involved with somebody that you're comfortable with. I'm a fan for commercial business to look at the independent agents, but if we want to chat offline, I can help you out and get those in the right direction. Now I'm going to go to the not so fun side, my pleasure, of employees, which is what if it doesn't go as well as we want? EPLI, Employment Practices Liability Insurance. Now, what if you fired somebody the wrong way and they said, oh, or harassment? You had no idea this was going on. Maybe you had well intended, but you didn't follow the cross T or dot the I or whatever it might be. Just make sure that, and one of the big things with all of this, by the way, is your attorneys come with you. When you bring these items with you, you're hiring attorneys for the biggest bang for your buck. I mean, imagine your own personal homeowners and automobile insurance. Then you add on an umbrella policy. $1 million umbrella policy can start as little as $250 a year. Now, this is the personal side, but imagine having an attorney in your back pocket for as little as $1 a day. I just did an EPL and cyber combined policy for somebody, and it was about $3,000 a year. That will be the cheapest attorney you'll ever find, should you have to have one of those things. Employee dishonesty. Do you have coverage for employee dishonesty? What about Betty Bookkeeper? It wasn't a big deal. It was only $200 a month to keep her Starbucks habit up or pay that extra bill that nobody knew about. Well, $2,000 a month all of a sudden became $20,000 or $200,000 10 years later. Do you have coverage for employee dishonesty? I had a doctor who called. Unfortunately, one of his employees was pocketing some of the cash payments. So do you have coverage for that as well? These are inexpensive, relatively speaking, inexpensive coverages. So ask about them. Insurance really is, I call it the 4 R's. It's a risk and reward balance. And I already talked a little bit about deductibles. I talked a little bit about coverages. We only have a bucket of money that's so big. I get it. I'm in the same boat. But how much are we willing to risk? Do you want to have a low deductible and higher insurance? Or are you okay with a little bit higher deductible and a little bit lower on your insurance premium? Talk to your professional, see what makes sense. Don't do it alone. And come on, right coverage at the right price. I mean, anybody seen the commercial that says name your own price? Yeah, you're going to get what you pay for. So just keep that in mind. It is a balancing act. Let's talk about it. And when you talk with your professionals, you'll get the right numbers. Now, let's take a moment and we'll head into a couple of real life examples. And again, please feel free to ping away and ask some questions as we go through this one. Okay, here's a marketing consulting firm. It's hired by a chain of restaurants. It's several locales over 6 months that they're trying to help this chain of restaurants start up with. An employee failed to get the closing dates right on 3 of the locations. Now think about that. What's your one job? Marketing. You should know exactly the dates that need to be. Well, they missed 3 of the locations and they were sued. $90,000 was paid to the restaurant, $30,000 in defense costs, and a $120,000 payout. Here's another one. I find this one actually almost comical. Here we have a computer business. The business class is computer development, designer, software, or distributor of software information. It's a $50 million in revenue company practically, and 190 employees. What did they do? They failed to accurately report. High turnover at the executive level, no website. That's the part I find almost comical. Well, the directors and officers of the company were then sued. The allegations included common law fraud, negligent misrepresentation, and breach of fiduciary duties. Fortunately, with the D&O policy, the case was resolved, but the shareholders got over $1 million in coverage, and defense costs were over $500,000. So if you own a nonprofit, participate in a nonprofit, do yourself a favor, make sure they actually have D&O coverage for you. Wrongful termination. Now, take a look at this one. The employee was sending a stream of offensive emails to colleagues about one of his managers. Would you keep any of those employees? I wouldn't. So the guy or gal went back and sued the employer, saying they failed to follow proper protocol and processes when dismissing the employees. Employer ultimately lost $80,000 in that, in addition to the $30,000 in defense cost, $110,000 payout. So when I talked about, a cyber policy along with a EPLI policy for this organization, now they're doing close to 1.8 million in revenue, but it was so inexpensive when you think about $3,000 for a policy along those lines. Here's a smaller one. Now, when I was working with Allstate, one of the things they said the easiest way in for hackers is through the back door. And what they meant by that was the individual laptops and telephones, and that's the easiest way to get in. So here's a real estate agent who can't access her email one day. She gets encrypted. She can't get to any of her things. What's going on? Turns out when she calls IT, she's been hit with ransomware. So they had to pay out $50,000 to get it, a decryption key, and the total cost to this realtor was $87,150. If all of your contacts in your little black box, the phone, are all gone, how easy it for you to pick up your business, especially if you're a realtor. Now, we've all heard about the cyber attacks these days, Targets, the AT&Ts, the healthcare systems. But again, the easiest way in is through somebody's laptop or phone. The phishing emails are getting better and better and better and better. By the way, by law, there are parts of this that are required, legally mandated. Credit reporting you may have to carry for people for a number of years. The notification process. One of my carriers calls and says, hey, listen, call us. We will help you set up all the protocols and necessary items, including manuals. And that's part of the partnership when you work with insurance. They don't want you to have claims. They want to prevent them before they begin. I found this one pretty striking. This came from one of our carriers, Berkeley Management, and two that I'm going to bring up here in particular. The average cost to recover from a ransomware attack was $84,000. $84,000. And then the other one here is 60%. A full 60% of small businesses that suffer a cyber attack go out of business within 6 months. A little scary, I think, when I look at some of those numbers. Oops. Now let's just take a look at a couple of things here. Anybody fire away in the chat. What kind of coverages might we be looking at here? Anybody have any ideas? We've got the car. I don't see any commercial markings. Property and auto. That's right, Laura. I don't see any commercial markings on that truck, but it could be combo plate. Cyber, great. So let's just assume loss of income. Good one. Let's just assume. Now, I like this photo because nobody was injured in this one. When I was looking for a photo, they said nobody was injured. So I picked this one. But let's just say Johnny Driver here was doing that Staples run and getting paper for work. So who are they going to go after? The vehicle itself? Well, here we go. Let's go into it. Haha, insurance to the rescue. Here we come. Save the day. And let's bring up a couple of items that I think we could look at here. We have auto liability here. The guy who's driving the car, I'm assuming that this is the driver standing right here. If he was driving for work, are they going to come at? So it's the car. If he was driving his buddy's car, by the way, it'd go after the car first, then the driver, then the employer. So it could be auto liability for the guy who owned the car or gal. Then it could be the auto liability of the person driving the car. Then it could be that hired non-owned, in this case, the non-owned auto. If it was a rented car, it could be a hired and non-owned. Now there's property damage liability. He has to pay for the damages to this building. There's collision for the vehicle itself. Now, the auto liability, I started in there because if he wasn't the owner of that vehicle, it could come from another vehicle. Did this person need an umbrella policy? I don't know how much damage. What if this was a 20-story building and it collapsed? We don't know. So those are things to look at. From the business owner and the building side, there's property damage, both the building and its contents. Laura, you got it. Loss of income. Catherine, I didn't even put cyber in here, but yes. What if there's cash register machines and now there's vandalism? People grab data. What if the employees grab money and run? Is there employee dishonesty involved in there? I don't know. How about workers' compensation? Were any of the people injured? Now, again, in this one, they said nobody was injured. Or what if they go out of business? Is there unemployment that's going to be now involved in this one as well? So I'm going to go back to my little superhero here. We like to think of insurance as your financial first responder. Even during the hurricanes, who came in first to Florida? Yes, the government's there, but I think the first one carrying buckets of money were the insurance companies. So keep that in mind as you partner. And it really, I truly believe is a partnership. Nobody loves it. I don't even like it, but it's a partnership when we have it here. So let's wrap up some of what we're talking about here. Because the truth is, entrepreneurship is a team sport. Diane, you know this better than anybody else. That's why you're here with SCORE. We have your insurance agent. You probably have an accountant. You might have a bookkeeper. You might have a fractional HR department that you work with. You can't do it all. It's very difficult to do it all. So let's go back and we'll refresh some of the things we talked about. Let's talk about making it easy. The essentials, the items that are required. It's your workers' comp. It's your automobile insurance. It's your unemployment insurance, perhaps. Please don't skip these absolutely advisable ones. Your general liability, your property. Do you have any specialty items? Your loss of income. Professionals, you want your D&O, your E&O. And again, if you're on boards, make sure they have that D&O for you. We have cyber. Strongly suggested will be our cyber liability, as well as our commercial umbrella policy and our professional coverages. And then your team. It's the plus, the minus. You don't have to be 24/7 if you have a good team to work with. And everybody takes a bit of what goes on here. But you also give the happy stuff, which are benefits. And maybe the unhappy part is worrying about EPLI and employee dishonesty. There's the 4 R's of insurance. It's the risk versus the reward. Weigh them out. How much are you willing to put at risk? What are you willing to forego? What are you willing not to forego? Talk about deductibles when we talk about maybe there's different coverages you do or don't want. Some people say, okay, I can handle a 2% hurricane deductible. Some people say, I need lots of wind coverage. Work what's right for your business. And it's the right coverage at the right price. I get people calling me sometimes, oh, I want the cheapest. Okay, let's talk about what that means to you. Do you want no coverage if you have an accident or if the building gets into a fire? No. Okay, so you want the best value. Yes, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. So that's what we're talking about here. Okay, it is lunchtime, so I made this next one a little corny. We're talking about salads. It's the food for thought. It's the subcontractors and their certificates of insurance. Do you have subcontractors? By the way, if you have workers' compensation subcontractors, people working for you, and they don't have their own workers' compensation, you're the one on the hook. And at the end of the year, when your company comes and does an audit and says, oh, okay, you did $200,000 in payroll. Okay, it was all 1099. Great. Where are their certificates? And if you don't have certificates of insurance, guess who now picks up that $200,000 in payroll and pays the insurance premiums backwards? Feel free to reach out if you have questions on that. That's what we're here for. Please don't hesitate to do that. Hired and non-owned coverage. So inexpensive. It might even be $100 on your GL policy, depending on what you're doing. Add that on. Add John grabbing coffee for the office. Doesn't even have to be paper. That could be on there as well. Liability limits. Do you have the right coverage to protect your assets? I don't know what those are until you and I have a conversation. So we want to make sure that you are protected for what you do. There's ways to do this. There's ways to structure your businesses. I'm not an attorney, LLCs and corporations, those are part of the plan, then have it insured the right way. Your attorney costs. Now, attorneys come with this, as I was saying. Sometimes they come what we call inside limits or outside limits. An inside limit means that if you have $1 million of liability and your attorney charges $500,000 of liability, you only have $500,000 left over to pay. Outside limits means you have that full $1 million available to pay any claimants, and the attorney's fees don't reduce that amount of coverage. If anybody needs clarity, let me know. Thanks, Clint. They're kind of silly. Deductibles, we were talking about that a few minutes ago, your risk reward and the deductibles. So see what makes sense to you. And then scheduled items. Are there specialty items that you need that are scheduled? I don't know your business unless we have that conversation. Hairdressers, they have special chairs. A dentist, I think those chairs are probably worth $40,000 by the time they go up and down, the water and all that stuff that goes into them. Are there specialty items that you need to work with? Okay. And last but not least, let's mind your P's and Q's. It's prevention. Get those certificates of insurance. Are there things that you can do, risk management, even within your own agency? Whatever you might be doing. Nursing, maybe it's teaching to learn how to pick up patients the right way. Ask questions. Ask questions. Prevention also requires a certificate of insurance. Ask questions of your insurance agent. What if this happens? What about this? What about this? And I can't reiterate price versus quality. I'm sorry, I'm putting that in there again and again and again because people do say, I want the cheapest. I don't believe people always want the cheapest. I believe they want the best value that comes with it. Entrepreneurship and owning your own business is a team sport. Let's make navigating the insurance maze easy. Work with an independent agent. I'm partial to independent agents, Clint, you asked. I did the captive side for 25 years. I actually started in an independent agency, did a divide and conquer, went to the captive side, and I'm back again. So I represented Allstate for 25 years, loved it, thought it was a great deal, but I found that the breadth and the width and the depth of products were better available here within the independent agency system. Florida has a slightly different setup with some of the Allstate agents, but we can talk about, as I said. Tailor your coverages to your needs and desires. What is your income that you're needing to replace? Is it a grocery store? I got to imagine that's almost a couple $1,000s a day. And they have higher inventory and things like that and employee turnover. Or is it $100 a day? I don't know what the right number is, but you need to come up with the numbers that work to you. Are you willing to take $40,000 and not worry about that excavator? That's a choice that you make, but please don't cheapen it up on the liability coverage. That's where you really need to protect yourself the most. Update your coverage regularly. You get your insurance agents who want to meet with you once a year, once every 2 years. Answer the questions. Don't think nothing's changed. It has changed. Maybe you have more clients. Maybe you've left clients. Maybe John Doe isn't driving anymore. On the auto car policies, John Doe maybe had a little bing bing and hit a few cars, and he's no longer with you. That can reduce your rates. You want to pay attention with that. Work with the team. You have your bookkeeper, you have your accountant, you might have a tax advisor, your attorney. I'm sure setting it up, you talk to an attorney getting set up. SCORE is amazing. I have worked with SCORE in the past. I love what they do, and I think it's amazing what they've been able to do to help people as entrepreneurs. When I started my Allstate agency, I started from scratch, which means I had nothing. So I feel the pain for people in startups. Here I am in a small business that's been around for over 75 years. It's the width and breadth of everything. I love plugging into the webinars because I learn something new every time I get in. Prevention and training is the first step, and it is a balance of coverage and price. Let's go to Q&A. Fire away with any questions you might have, and I'd be happy to answer them.
I'd like to make just a comment about subcontractors. The government recently redefined what a subcontractor is. We had a webinar on that about a month ago, And if you weren't there, and you use subcontractors, or you think you use subcontractors, check that webinar out, because the definition has gotten very, very narrow. And if you think, no problem, they've all got their own insurance, I don't have to worry about them, that's, Suzanne may think that that's not true.
Yep. What are the standard exclusions in most liability policies? That's a good one, Clint. First of all, you can't do it intentionally. That's probably the number one that you want to look at. I think that's probably the biggest thing that you want to look at, is that you can't do it intentionally. There may be restrictions in terms of where you're working. So I'm home based in Connecticut, right near the New York border. And we have some companies that if contractors head into New York, and New York has a really interesting law, and it has to do with the liability for contractors should they get injured. And it's called action over. So for lack of a better term, it can be considered contributory negligence. So if a homeowner had a slightly uneven pavement and the ladder fell, they might now go after the homeowner, not just under the workers' compensation. So I think you need to know what your exclusions are for territory, and things like that. Took me 3 months to get a surety bond on my Atlanta contractor. Yep. And Rikers Island. Yep.
That's
And
New York.
That is New York. And what happens too is that we have what's called excess and surplus. So if your business is not niche enough to be in the mainstream marketplace, excess and surplus are pretty exciting marketplaces. People probably have heard of Lloyd's of London. It's probably the #1 excess and surplus carrier. And they allow you to tailor certain things. Maybe there's some exclusions. I just did a contractor recently in New York, and they excluded that action over. So if somebody gets injured, so they burn the house down, they've got coverage. But if it's a workers' comp that comes back with what we call that action over, they don't have coverage. And I had them sign away, so they're aware. But it was a way for them to continue to do business in New York without shutting down the whole operation. So those are things that you can do. Thank you, Laura. It's a kind of crazy thing, but I'm a little bit of an insurance geek. I like it. Catherine, I'm an RN and teach clients to give injections for weight loss. Suggested insurance. Cyber for sure. Due to telehealth, no question. RN insurance, do I need general liability? Well, I would have general liability. It's you probably can get away with what we call a BOP policy, a business owner's policy. Do you have supplies that you need? Do you have teaching stuff? Are they coming to you? Are you going to their house? If you leave a bag on the floor and they trip, can they say that that's your fault? I for sure would look at some type policy, malpractice type policy. Let's just pretend that you didn't know they were allergic to some ingredient in there and failed to ask. And we know that nothing's ever going to happen unless something does happen. And all of a sudden the checklist comes out. What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? So those are things that can do. My partner holds the lease and has general liability. Great. So your partner has the lease, which is great. And it's general liability for the operations, and it's the premises. But is that liability also covering the operation of the business itself? And again, I'm happy to, if you want to have a one-on-one, don't hesitate to give me a buzz here. Clint, agree. One of the best insurance explanations I've ever heard. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's really sweet. It means a lot. As a CPCU, I see that. He's an
Suzanne, I
insurance geek
think the
too.
next slide has contact information.
Yes, it will.
How about advance to that so that we have a little time on it?
Sure, let's go. All right, listen, I hope that you never have a situation that looks like this, but if you have the right partnership, I really do hope that this is what it looks like. You're getting the money that you need, and that's something that comes to you. And I really hope that you end up with smooth sailing in your career as an entrepreneur and business owner. You have my Malloy insurance there. I'll shoot my, I'll even give you my cell phone, as we're all business owners here. Please don't share that with the public. That's my cell phone. Feel free to call me, text me, message me, and go ahead and do that. The QR code here is our website, and it's Malloy Insurance. So please don't hesitate to reach out on that one. I'm going to go back to a couple. Do BOP still contain general liability? Yes, Clint. Liability is part of the BOP policy. So BOP, just for clarification, stands for Business Owner's Policy. And that's generally a package policy where you can put the liability, you can put some contents coverage on there. That's where you're going to get some of your hired and unowned coverage. So it's called and these policies have a robust set of stuff that go in there. I did a deli not long ago. Maybe they needed some coverage for if the freezer goes and they need 20,000 in refrigeration. So and there are specialty business owners policies relative to your industry. Years ago, when I started out, they had dry cleaners and they need what's called Bailey's coverage. Well, that means that if I have somebody's clothing in my care, custody, and control. So Diane, you're down in Florida, so you sent me a fur coat to clean for you, and it disappears, stolen, have a fire. That $5,000 mink was in my care, custody, and control. That's a specialty item largely known to dry cleaners and some others. So a BOP designed for your specialty business can be sometimes the best way to go. I don't know if that answered 100% the question, Clint, so let me know if there's something else you want in there.
So the consignment store, the clothing consignment store that had a fire, sounds
Yep.
like it would be that kind of situation.
Yep, that's exactly right. Now, they maybe had you sign a hold harmless agreement. You dropped off the stuff you didn't want anyhow. And if something happens, then I'm not going to pay you. And that's a way to do it. They put it in their contract. Who knows? You have to see what's in those contracts, just as an example of things to watch out for. Any other questions from anybody that I see? I'll stop my share, Diane, if that's what we...
Yeah, that'd be fine. I have a few more slides that I would like to share.
Okay, did I stop my share there?
Yeah, yeah. This one. Great. Okay. Yes. So just as a reinforcement, if you are interested in having a SCORE mentor, visit our website, score.org/Minnesota. You can request a mentor. You can look at our mentor profiles. You can look at our recorded workshops that we have on there, or look for other materials. We actually have templates. If you're interested in starting a business, there are a lot of financial templates for you to download and fill those in. And lastly, I want to thank you for coming and thank Suzanne for sharing her information. You will be getting an email with a survey from our national organization. If you could just take a minute to fill that in, it would be really helpful. You can tell us how wonderful Suzanne is. We already know that. Suzanne, full disclosure, Suzanne and I go back a few decades.
Sailing around together.
Sailing around Long Island Sound together, exactly. We weren't always in Florida. Not only do you get to say how wonderful she is, but what can we do to improve all of our webinars? And most importantly, I said I was the education chair. I like to know what other topics are you interested in? You know, the topics that I come up with are those that fall off the top of my head. And there are probably better ways of identifying topics that we might think about including in upcoming webinars. So I think, thanks everyone. Great webinar, great focus items. Suzanne, you did a great job. As Clinton has said, you took a very difficult topic, broke it down into 4 easy to understand areas. And now I think everybody has a better grasp as to what to ask their agents when they talk to them. What should they be asking about, and consider what they should think about signing up for.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, I believe, Diane, that because insurance exists, so we all can take calculated risks. We can run our businesses and sleep better at night should the unthinkable happen.
Yes. Yes.
So
we certainly know that in Florida, that the unthinkable can happen. We all think that Sarasota area is immune to hurricanes. Turns out that's not quite the case. Again, thank you, Suzanne, for your expertise. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for participating. And I hope to see you next week. Next week, WordPress, part 1. If you have a website and you use WordPress, think about signing up for all 3 parts of this upcoming WordPress in 3 easy sessions. I don't know if they're easy, but we'll see. So thank you, and we'll see you again. Bye, everyone.